Celeste Jensen was mad, really mad. She just had an argument with her boyfriend Gabe, and it had hung up with a sick feeling in her stomach. She felt like she'd swallowed a brick. He'd always been a bit jealous, but tonight had been different. He'd accused her of cheating on him, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. She had sworn on everything that she could think of that she hadn't cheated, nor had she even thought of cheating on him, but he was furious. He was certain that she had told her friends about another guy, and that they had seen her texting someone else. He even said that he had proof. Finally, she told him that she needed some time apart. She couldn't understand what had happened and why he was acting like that. She'd hung up on him. She never hangs up on someone, but she just needed it to stop. And to make matters worse, her sorority was throwing a party in the house tonight, and she had a splitting headache. Several of the girls had come to ask her to please join in. Sarah had prompted her with, "There's cute guys downstairs," but that was literally the last thing she needed. She made her excuses, got into her pajamas, put on her headphones and crawled into bed, choosing her Screw the World playlist, and pulled the covers over her head. A couple of hours later, she woke up having not realized that she'd even fallen asleep. She took off her headphones to go make a trip to the bathroom when she realized that the house was silent. Completely silent. She looked at her watch, and it was 1:30 a.m., and much, much too early for a party to be over. She thought the party must have moved as she opened the door, noticing that the house was also dark. She padded along the hall to the bathroom, and when she came out, she took a step past her door and felt something on her foot soaking through her socks. It was thick, and she knew immediately that someone must have puked on the floor. Perfect, she thought as she struggled to get one sock off. "Doesn't this just make my effing night?" she said aloud. She headed towards the stairs, and while she was tugging at the other sock, she flicked the light on. She was still looking down when she took the first stair, but then she looked up, and her heart stopped. The railing was covered in blood. She could see a pool of blood on the landing. She put her hand over her mouth to muffle her scream, her mind racing. Did someone get hurt after the party left? Are there others hurt? Could someone be in the house? She ran back to her room and noticed her roommate, Alice, in her bed. She shook her. "Alice," she whispered, "Alice." And she heard a heavy thump hit the floor. She reached over to the lamp, her hands shaking, her knees buckling, and she turned it on. Alice's head was at her feet, her eyes cold and gray, staring straight up into nothing. This time she couldn't control her scream, and then she heard footsteps on the stairs. She turned the light off quickly and climbed back into bed, her covers over her head. She was begging her body to stop shaking. Control your breathing. Be still. She heard her door open and felt the presence of someone standing at the door for what seemed like hours, but had to have only been just a couple of minutes. Suddenly, she heard screaming from downstairs, a wailing cry. She listened to see if she heard more than one voice. She was afraid to encounter a killer. The only voice she heard was that of a woman. It sounded familiar as she got out of bed and slowly, ever so slowly, began to walk down the stairs. Her hand slid along the rail, and when it did, it wiped blood onto her. She couldn't help but look at her hand, standing still, her mind almost numb from fear. Then the crying caught her attention again. This time it sounded more like whimpering, someone saying, "Oh God, oh God," over and over, and it froze her. It was Juliet, her best friend. "Oh my God," she thought. Not Juliet. They'd been best friends since grade school. Their fathers had worked together. Their mothers also best friends. No, not Juliet. She began to move, and she quickly went down the stairs, but when she got to the landing, she forgot about the blood pooling there and slipped hard, hitting her head on the bottom stair. She knew that she couldn't lay there. She knew that she had to get up and look for Jules. With her head pounding, throb after throb, she slowly walked through the living room, following the noise of the crying, until she came to the kitchen. "Juliet," she whispered. "Julie," she whispered again. "Celeste," came back a whimper. "Is that you?" "Shh. Is there anyone here?" asked Celeste, and she stood just outside the two winged doors that were the entryway to the kitchen. "Celeste, oh my God. Thank God. Celeste. It's over. Help me." Celeste slowly opened the swinging doors and saw Juliet covered in blood. Only lit by the moonlight coming through the window, she was sitting on the floor, her knees pulled up, her arms wrapped around them. So bloody. Celeste moved closer to her dearest friend. "There's a knife on the floor. Pick it up, Celeste," whispered Julie. Celeste caught the shimmer off the blade and picked it up, the handle slippery in her hands from the blood. "I'm calling 911, said Celeste. "I already did. They said they'd be here any second," replied Julie. Just then she heard the front door being kicked in. The police came in with their guns out and their flashlights quickly moving across the room. "It's her! It's her!" yelled Juliet. "She killed them! She killed the man I love!" The lights came on, and as Celeste was being ordered to drop the knife, she saw Gabe on the floor next to her, his neck cut. Her mind was reeling. The police threw her to the ground and wrestled her arms behind her back. I don't know what's going on. Julie, tell them." And Julie was crying and pointing at her. "It was her. Oh my God. How could you do this, Celeste?" Celeste looked her in the eyes and knew at that moment who had been telling Gabe that she'd been cheating.